pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of the
of
United States
America
of America
and
and
to
to
the
the
republic
republic.
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please. Hope. Here.
Here, I can't hear you though.
Here. 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 Is that better, Sandy? Can you hear better now?
I can hear everybody else, but Hope is hard to hear. But
Okay,
I
well,
can.
she moved her mic closer, so hopefully, but
Good.
let us
Yeah,
know
it
if-
should be fine.
Okay, sounds good. Let's see. Consideration of the agenda. Does anybody want to pull, let's see, anything from consent?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Connie?
I'd like to pull the Molly Puss contract out because she's my niece, and I would like to pull her off there
Okay.
and do her separate.
Okay, thank you, Connie. So we will pull item 6.6 from consent, and we will put it on as, the first action item. We'll move it to right before action item 7.1.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that change, are there any more changes to the agenda?
I guess
Hearing-
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Yes.
If we want to express regrets on something, do we want to pull that item on a resignation?
You can do that, or you can just, if you want to express that now, or, when we do the consent, I think that's okay. It's up to you. You can do it either way.
Okay. Well, if we can, I don't have to pull it. Then that's fine.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Motion to approve.
Lauren motions, Connie seconds. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please. Yes. Sandy?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, the next item is public comments, and we do have somebody that has asked to address the board, and I just want to make the statement that we always make before a speaker. During the public comment part of each regular board meeting, up to 30 minutes of time will be allowed for district constituents to address the board. Each person may have up to 3 minutes of time to speak. This is a time of listening by the school board. The board is here to listen only and will not take action or discuss topics brought forward during the open forum. It may, at its discretion, ask questions for clarification of issues. The board may, if it deems appropriate, bring said issues forward at a subsequent meeting. No personal attacks will be allowed. The open forum is the only opportunity for members of the audience to speak out during the meeting. So with that, I would love to invite Mr. Brian Biskins up to address the board. Thank you for being with us tonight, Brian.
Well, my name is Brian Biskins, and I'm the parent of David, who's a junior at Stewart High School. I guess if I were to title this address to the school board, I would give it the title of Where Does It End? And specifically, I'm talking about the cultural appropriation that's going on in all of our schools. I'm here today to question the position of Malik Peer, our equity member, and what it appears to be a blanketed breathed ring he has to enter our classrooms at schools in Jordan as an activist for Black culture and to share his views of the world. Most recently, Mr. Peer was invited to the choir room with the permission of the choir director to discuss cultural appropriation during African American Month. Yes, I said choir. The students were shown a video that started off with a black woman stating, "Do you know that music you're singing? You stole it." This was followed up by an anecdotal story where said she was a witness of two white guys walking down the street wearing do-rags. She stated blacks wear the do-rag for protection of their hair, and these white men were using it as a fashion statement. Was this his role? Discipline? Speaking to classes about black views? His views on racism? His views on cultural appropriation? Then he missed our meeting. During our discussion with Mr. Visner and Ms. McKnight, it was clear that Mr. Peer was given great latitude to share his experiences in life. My question was and is, what is so unique about his life, and who was the counter debater to the topics of white people stealing black music? Mr. Peer is not a teacher. He is not a music historian any more than I am. Just because he says it doesn't mean our kids have to agree. Ms. McKnight stated she hoped the video would foster discussion. With who? A teacher that came in there invited another individual, another adult, and they were supposed to have a discussion? With who? Did Mr. Peer and Ms. McKnight wish to shame our kids? I would hope not. Is this another form of indoctrination into the light-built arena? I would hope not. But where does it end? Our kids are told that white people stole black music. No checks or balance. It was said, therefore it must be true. Did Darius Rucker and Charlie Pride steal country music? My mother absolutely loved Charlie Pride. I know she wasn't sitting at home going, why is this black man singing country music? But yet we are told that whites are stealing black music. Our kids are told this rather. Why is Mr. Peer allowed to discuss cultural appropriation according to his life experiences without there being a counter? If the district wishes to give out five-figure salaries to people to discuss their upbringing, then I would throw my hand into the hat. I would think that my 21 years in the military serving throughout the United States and Europe under all races and for all races, my 17 years as a police officer and 19 years as a public educator in St. Paul, I qualify. And you know what? I can also deal with middle school discipline, as Mr. Peer did. Where does it end? I watched a video on YouTube where a black drummer named Leonard Lewis, Mr. Lewis, challenged himself to watch Metallica, to learn to play Metallica. Metallica is hard rock, for those of you who don't know. He then attempted to play the song, and it was beautiful. And he ended his presentation with, we should all enjoy music. Music is to be shared and loved, and yet we're being told, our kids are being told, they stole the music they're singing, rather than just enjoying the music that they're singing.
Mr. Biskins, you'll have to, I'm sorry, you'll have to wrap up.
I have
Okay.
no words.
That's fine. Thank you.
TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, social media, commercials, colleges, professional sports, and now Jordan High School are telling our kids it's bad to be white. Where does it end? Let's end it here at Jordan High School. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Biskins. Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda, we have the minutes, monthly finance reports. Just a minute, I have to get logged back in here. Monthly finance reports, donations. We have the donation of a flute from Cliff Clare for the Jordan High School Band. We have $45 for Mighty Cause for Food Shelf. We have $50 for band from Marilyn Cypress. And we have $500 from the Minnesota Valley Electric Trust for the middle school backpack program. We have several policies. Let's see, where are we here? We have several policies as listed. We have a new hire of Paige Stevers, grade 1, step 1. New hire, long-term sub Christina Harrison, BA 1. FMLA request for middle school teacher Kaylee Doherty. Resignation of the high school special ed paraprofessional Diane Hauer. Resignation of the elementary school building administrative assistant Eileen Dalton. And resignation of the circ front desk assistant Claire Johnson. So I will entertain a motion to approve the consent items. Just a minute. Was there? Oh, there was one added since I printed this. Okay, the resignation of communications, marketing, and event specialist Cat Pass. Okay, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Sarah. Any discussion?
I did not see Kat's name on there, so I just want to wish Kat the best in her next opportunity. I know she'll be successful wherever she is. We will greatly miss her and her communication style and her effectiveness and how well she manages social media for the district tremendously. So best of luck to you, Kat.
Yeah, and I would echo that also.
Me too, and thank you for the extra hours that you gave us that you weren't in contract for, because we know that you did that. Greatly appreciate it.
Over and above all the time.
I also would like to add my sadness and happiness at the same time for Kat. I am extremely sad for our district. I think that we will really understand the impact that Kat made on our district. Unfortunately, possibly the maximum impact once she is gone. I know she has put in countless hours, gone way above and beyond everything, and I just want to say that I so much value everything that she has done for our district. We would not be here today if it weren't for all of her amazing marketing and communications efforts that she has done. So thank you, Kat, from the bottom of my heart.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call, please.
Deb Pauley,
Yes.
Andy Burke,
Yes?
Connie Hennan,
Yes.
Lauren Pedersen,
Yes,
Jeanette
sadly.
Whitman,
Yes.
Molly Manya.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, item 7.0, we'll call it, the hire of elementary school long-term sub Molly Huss comes in at a BA1 on Schedule A. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
Lauren, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Molly. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Deb Pauley,
Yes.
Andy Burke,
Yes.
Connie Hennan,
I'm gonna abstain.
Lauren Pedersen,
Yes.
Sarah Lehman,
Yes.
Molly Manya.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, action items, 2021-2022 budget projections. And I will turn it over to Superintendent Evenson and our Finance Director, Ms. Hoffman.
So this is just going to be a very rough outlook of the budget presentation that the board approved the revised budget in February, and also a quick look ahead until the next fiscal year.
Can you not hear Sandy? I'm looking at your pace.
Is it on?
No, I can't hear a thing.
We're checking to
I
make
don't
sure
think
it's
the
on.
mic is working. Sorry.
Pause a moment. Can you hear me, Sandy?
And sorry for looking a mess. I'm currently in Decorah. I've been driving for I don't know how many hours today, so
Can you hear me now?
yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so at the February board meeting, I presented the revised budget. So the numbers going forward I'm just gonna give some quick rough numbers on the general fund. They do not include LTFM and capital dollars. So as you'll recall, the revised revenue budget for fiscal year 2021 included $670,000 of CARES funding, and also an additional $81,000 from the Southwest Metro, which gave us extra revenue for this current fiscal year. The revised expenditure budget had an increase in salaries due to JVA teacher payments, also other expenditures that were increased due to the COVID pandemic. There was also a decrease in expenditures due to things that didn't happen, such as some sports and transportation events that didn't happen. So at June 30th, 2021, the district is expected to overspend by an estimated $157,000. This number would have been a lot higher if we wouldn't have gotten the CARES, GEARS, and ESSER one-time funding. So the projected unassigned fund balance at June 30th is $1,833,000, which is an estimated decrease of $33,000, $33,750 less than 2020. So looking ahead into fiscal year 2022 for next year's budget, again, these numbers are very rough with only the little bit of data that we know at this time. So these numbers are live and they will change they're just going to change. So when I did the revenue budget, I'm going to estimate enrollment to be about 1,850 students, which is 1,815 students in K-12, 22 ECS or preschoolers, and 13 tuition students. So the projected revenue for 2022, not including capital and LTFM dollars, is $19,523,000. This is less $81,000, which is what we're projected to lose in compensatory revenue this year, but it includes the $264,000 that we're expected to get in ESSER 2 funds, and it also includes a 0% increase in state aid because at this time we just don't know what the legislature is going to do. The projected expenditures, not including LTFM, are expected to be at $20,314,000. Considerations into this number is it's a negotiations year for most groups. The expenses the events and things that didn't happen in 2021 due to COVID are going to be brought back in, such as transportation, sporting events, and sub costs are going to be up a little higher next year. So given this data that I have at this moment, I'm projecting the district to overspend by about $790,000 at the end of fiscal year 2022. Again, these are only projections at this time. The 0% in state aid could definitely change, but we won't know that by June. The legislature could hold harmless, meaning the district's enrollment, meaning districts would get the state aid from 2020 enrollment, and also the legislature could hold harmless the district's compensatory revenue, giving us what we received in fiscal year 2020. Other considerations into this, if the state were to give us a 1.5 increase in state aid, that would mean an extra $182,000 increase in revenue based on the 1,850 students. If the state were to give us a 2% increase in state aid, that would mean an additional $242,000. If the state were to hold us harmless based on our 2020 enrollment, that would mean an increase in $269,000 in revenue.
So shifting to our district budget, and you think about the unassigned fund balance, here you'll see the trends that we've had since 2017 with our unassigned fund balance ending in 2020. So when you think about the fund balance, what does that exactly mean? Districts maintain a fund balance since they don't have to borrow money, again, to make payroll or other monthly expenses. It's one-time money. So once we spend that fund balance down, that money is gone. Every year that district's deficit spend becomes a challenge, and it brings them into a more unstable position, especially when the spending is on ongoing staffing positions. So we want to make sure that we are creating a more stable long-range budget situation for our school district. Most districts establish a policy of having a year-end fund balance at a certain percent. Jordan's policy is to maintain a 12% fund balance. You can see in the previous 2 school years that we were at 10% and 8%. Our budget here at Jordan Public Schools is becoming increasingly tight. As Amy referenced earlier, next year there's the possibility that we will overspend nearly $800,000. So for us, our work begins on balancing our budget. Many districts start that process by making lists of things that they can reduce. Sometimes that's based on what they perceive we can live without. Like maybe we could cut this budget for supplies and that. The challenge with that is that you sometimes have strong feelings either way on what we can live without and what we can't live without. And truthfully, what is important to one person might not be important to the next person. Another challenge is that you can end up making cuts in areas that actually don't help us in long-term sustainability. And we have to really pay attention to that. Just reducing doesn't mean it will have a long-term sustainability factor for us. So we will engage in a systemic process moving forward with how we address our budget. Areas that our district is in or out of financial alignment will stand out for us. We will use comparison districts moving forward with similar ADMs and similar funding for us to see where Jordan lands with that. The big question is, what can we actually afford as a district with the revenues that we have coming in? And we will be examining our district's current financial position as it compares to comparable districts. We'll be looking at our expenditures and identifying, other funding mechanisms that districts may have or don't have that are comparable. We'll look at our areas of overspending and see how we rank and relate to our comparison districts. And then we will make recommendations for the board later this month based on those rankings and recommendations. When you think about comparable districts, you have to think about how do you choose a comparable district, and you have to think about your purpose. Sometimes districts look at the average daily membership. How many students are enrolled in the district? Is that comparable? Sometimes it's a geographical location of the district. Is it a district that's in the surrounding communities around us? You can also look at how much additional revenue districts have coming in with referendum dollars. You can look at some of the demographics like special education. You could look at English learners, free and reduced lunch, and you can look at facilities. It depends on your purpose. For Jordan Public Schools, for our comparables, our best comparables when we think about balancing our budget, we'll be looking mainly at the geographical piece. We'll be looking at similar enrollment, and we'll be looking at similar revenue streams. So Belle Plaine, Watertown Mayor, Tri-City United, Sibley East, Glencoe, Silver Lake, and Annandale are our best comparables right now as we're looking at how we're spending. So when you consider Jordan's expenditures, our expenditures in some key areas are among the highest of the comparable districts. And so we'll be targeting reductions in some of the key areas that will improve our efforts to have a more efficient budget moving forward within the revenue streams that we have to stabilize our spending within the district. Key areas that we would look at would be district level administration, school level administration, instruction regular, which would be like our teachers, classroom teachers, instructional support, which could be a variety of things from paraeducators to some of the specialized RTI positions and different things that we have supporting our students. Pupil support services, which would be like our health services, our counselors, our teen positions, social work positions, operational maintenance, and transportation. Right now, our highest spending areas would include instruction regular, instructional support, and pupil support. We are high in some of the other areas, but our highest would be those three areas that I noted. Our steps moving forward, tonight the board would consider a resolution to reduce programs and staffing. That's a routine resolution that would happen with a school board that may be looking at budget reductions moving forward. Throughout March for us, our administrative team will be looking at initial needs for staffing. We call that the FTEs, looking at what we need there. Our staffing moving forward will be in alignment with class sizes that the board approved over a year ago as well. That in itself will help to right size some of these budgetary considerations. Students will continue to register at JMS and JHS, and that will give us better numbers as well. Administrative work sessions will come together to draft that budget moving forward, review those expenditures, and make recommendations to bring back to the school board. And then we also will begin our planning that happens annually with LTFM, capital, safe schools, buildings and grounds, staff development, curriculum, and so on moving forward. At the March 22nd board meeting, we will have the board review the draft budget, and then recommended reductions will be presented to the school board for consideration and action at that time. Depending on those actions, employee communications of anyone impacted would happen on March 23rd. And moving throughout April and May, we would finalize any additional staffing adjustments as needed, prepare that final budget, and bring that budget forward in June. I would just like to note that we all have a common goal of making sure that Jordan Public Schools maintains its excellence, maintains great programming for our students, and really has sustainability moving forward financially as a district. It's really important work, and it's very hard work. And so, we thank everyone involved for their dedication as we move into this process. I would
Okay.
open it up for any questions or comments at this time.
Questions or comments from anybody? Some tough decisions, that's a lot of money to cut.
But we're basically gonna get the nuts and bolts of what we're gonna do at the next
Yes.
board meeting.
Yep. It comes forward on the 22nd. We would bring all of those recommendations forward for your consideration and action.
So, government's saying we have a surplus right now. But we've had to fight like tooth and nail to get our 1% and our 2% for the last how many years? Is there anything we can do to say, we won't know that until, July, end of June?
Well, I think it's May 18th or something like that is the last day, unless they go into special session.
And unfortunately,
But-
with staffing, that we have to make decisions at a certain time. So I know there's a big push legislatively right now to move up the decision if they can, but there are no guarantees.
But even looking if, say if we would get a 1%, realistically, that 1% is gonna be eaten up by our steps and lanes and those things all, plus.
Yeah.
So, it still isn't gonna really help the, continuum of,
Yeah. Well, even
Expenses.
if we settled all of our contracts at zero, it will still cost us more next year and the year after. And, we'll be negotiating several contracts. And so there's so many challenges and unknowns financially.
so other comments or questions? So we do have to take initial action tonight. We do have to approve the resolution directing administration to make recommendations for reductions in programs and positions. This is just a formality that we have to do at this time. We're not naming names or anything, but it's a resolution just basically giving authority for them to move forward with what we have to do. So the resolution directing the administration to make recommendations for reductions in programs and positions and reasons therefore. Whereas the financial condition of the school district dictates that the school board must reduce expenditures immediately, and whereas this reduction in expenditures must include discontinuance of positions and discontinuance or curtailment of programs, and whereas a determination must be made as to which teachers' contracts must be terminated and not renewed, and which teachers may be placed on unrequested leave of absence without pay or fringe benefits in effecting discontinuance of positions. Be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District Number 717 as follows. That the school board hereby directs the superintendent of schools and administration to consider the discontinuance of programs or positions to effectuate economies in the school district and reduce expenditures. Make recommendations to the school board for the discontinuance of programs, curtailment of programs, discontinuance of positions, or curtailment of positions. So now, I will need a motion from somebody to adopt this resolution.
So moved.
So I have a motion from Connie. Is there a second?
This is Sandy, second.
Sandy seconds. Okay, discussion or clarification or?
I just have a question. Are we setting a dollar amount at this time or no? I might have missed something because I couldn't hear everything that was being said.
That's typically not part of this generic resolution, Sandy.
Okay.
That's something that our superintendent and director of finance will work through, but I believe
Okay.
you want to address that.
Yeah, I mean, right now, we anticipate a deficit spend of $790,000, so as we bring forward, recommendations, they will be in that ballpark.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, other clarification or comments or questions? Okay, if not, roll call, please. Yes.
Yes,
Connie Hennan,
Yes.
Lauren Pedersen,
Yes.
Sarah Lehman,
Yes.
Molly Meyer.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, review and act on the APAC annual compliance overview and resolution. Do you want to hand?
Yep. So this is our annual compliance, stating that Jordan Public School District is in compliance based on 2021 IEPP, which is the annual plan based on the world's best workforce. The council voted and approved the compliance on February 26th. The compliance needs to be presented to the board and is brought forward this evening.
So, and this is a resolution, but I won't read this one. We're just approving the, what the APAC committee had agreed to. So I will entertain a motion to approve the APAC compliance overview and overview. That didn't come out very good. Sorry about that.
this is Sandy, so moved.
Okay, Sandy moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Molly. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Deb Pauley,
Yes.
Sandy Burt,
Yes,
Connie Hennan,
Yes.
Lauren Pedersen,
Yes.
Sarah Lehman,
Yes.
Molly Meyer.
Yes.
Motion carries. Review and act on the FY22 achievement and integration budget.
Hello. So our achievement integration plan is actually a 3-year plan. So the actual plan itself was already presented last year because it goes through 2020 through 2023. So none of our goals or objectives have changed. Just every single year we update the budget. So in the executive summary, it goes over just what achievement integration is and some of our goals and deliverables and ways we're trying to achieve those goals. But to specifically speak of the budget, the summary is at the bottom. We have $174,434 to spend in fiscal year 22, and that is determined by the state for us. And it's divided into 3 different categories: direct student services, and this is where 93% of our total spending falls into this category. So this would be like curriculum, staffing positions, and materials come out of this category, among other things. Then improvement funding, this category is set to specifically work on goals and not achieved in previous A&I cycles. So if we fell short of any of our goals, 20% of that revenue has to go to improvement funding in order to make sure that we do achieve our goals. And then professional development, this category goes into making sure our staff has the background and learning opportunities needed to serve all students. So CRT training, different professional development opportunities kind of come from this category. So that's a breakdown. Specific line item questions. Amy has that if you have any questions on that. But this is the breakdown kind of the budget overall. Questions? And again, none of our goals changed or deliverables from the.
So is there specific teachers or that go into that direct student services, or is it just go into the general?
Specific positions.
Okay.
Yep, so we added REACH at the middle school and high school during this cycle, and those positions, some of those positions are funded through achievement and integration. Our equity specialist is funded through achievement and integration, and 0.5 CRT specialist is funded through achievement and integration. And then there's Amy can specifically talk about this, specific percentages of other positions. So, for example, other positions can also come from this.
But if we cut a position, that money can't be used
No.
a separate, that has to stay in that pot.
This
correct?
is a separate bucket
Then
that
what-
specifically
okay.
has to be
just-
directed to our achievement and integration goals,
Okay.
which also align to World's Best Workforce goals. So it all works together, but this money can only be used for positions, curriculum, professional development that relates to achievement and integration. Yep, so it cannot go into the general
Thank
fund
you.
or anything like that.
So Aaron, the APAC money, that's separate from this also?
Yep.
That's another separate bucket?
So
Okay.
achievement and integration comes, you can qualify for achievement and integration in multiple ways. How we qualify is we're neighboring to a racially isolated district where 20% of their student body is of a protected class. Therefore, since we border them, we get specific funding as well. And we also work with that district. Some of our caring committee conversations and some of that work has partnered with that district and another neighboring district. So that's how we qualify. And then our percentage of dollars is based on levy money and student population and things like that. And we get a lesser amount than the actual racially isolated district.
Okay.
But yeah, it's separate from achievement integration,
Mhm.
separate from all funding buckets.
Good. And I don't know if there's anything in legislation changing any of this, or, I haven't seen anything related to.
I haven't seen anything, and the people that specifically that we work with from MDE is pretty solid on
Okay.
how this funding and how we report. We have to report on our goals. We have to report specifically how everything's funded. If we make any changes, Amy has to send an updated budget to the contacted MDE. So,
Great, good.
any other questions about achievement and integration?
Okay.
Does anything from our testing scores or what, I mean, this is bad now with COVID or whatever, but does any of our testing scores or whatever relate to the direct student services?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So one of our goals is basically to reduce the achievement gap. And that is measured right now on MCA reading and math scores. So that's also where REACH comes in and some of the programming that we've put into place.
Remind me again what REACH is.
It's a guided study hall in the middle school and high school to give students additional support, not just academic, but also social and emotional support as well. Help achieve goals, help work on goals towards things, additional planning, academic counseling, things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions? Okay, this is an action item, so thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve the achievement and integration budget for FY '22.
So moved.
Connie, is there a second?
I'll second.
A second from, Sarah, sorry. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Deb Pauley,
Yes.
Andy Burke,
Yes?
Connie Hennan,
Yes.
Lauren Pedersen,
Yes.
Sarah Lehman,
Yes.
Molly Meyer.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, on to the superintendent report.
Hey, good evening. Tonight I will just touch on a couple of things. Learning model update. We are on day 4 of having all of our pre-K through 12 students on site all day, every day. Kudos to our staff who have done just an amazing job to prepare for those students coming in every day. Our families have been great partners as well, and it's just been really exciting to see our kids back in session. We have, really worked hard to make sure that we have the best health and safety strategies in place for our kids. I know it's a lot of extra work, especially if there's a lunchroom table assignment and taking attendance and all of the extra things our principals and teams have put in so that we can provide this model for our kids. So just really excited to have them all back. On the other front, vaccinations update. We are almost officially out of the vaccination business. We have offered to all of our staff that qualify vaccination opportunities. Tomorrow we'll be sending out one last all call from Scott County for anybody that may have changed their mind. They're running one last E12 clinic. So very excited that we've been able to offer to all of our staff that wanted vaccinations, and it actually went pretty smoothly for Scott County. Outside of that, again, we are deep in planning already for next school year, and You know, I get the question all the time, what do you know about next school year? We don't know anything about next school year, except no matter what the circumstances are, we'll rise to the occasion and welcome our kids and provide a great education. And that concludes my update.
Any questions for our superintendent? Thank you. Then we have the high school principal's report. Jeff, you're on with us. Do you want to give us an update?
Yep. I snuck over to the high school because I'm going to help out with the girls' basketball game after we're done here. It's as reported, but I'm going to share one important thing because I know that the question has hit social media, so I thought I would answer a little bit of a question. Not with much detail, but important question that's out there is, what are we doing with prom? Just want you to know that we are going to have at least a grand march. We're working on planning right now. The date will, at this time, looks like either May 1st or May 8th. And we're continuing to work on that with myself and the prom advisor, and then the prom committee that we established last year will help us in planning some of these events. So that's the details we know right now. That's the basics of it. So I guess I would entertain any questions about that one there.
Would that include both junior and seniors?
If we do a grand march only, yes. And there will be no cost for that either then. If we have to go into a venue, then that's going to severely limit the number of kids we can have. And then it would be seniors, and their dates would probably be where we land depending on the number of students we can have in. So we're really leaning towards a grand march and allowing kids to develop their own after grand march plans to eat and dance. Dancing is really almost impossible to monitor in a social distancing fashion.
So are you meaning like they would do a grand march and then afterwards they could leave and go have dinner at the golf course or somewhere in Shakopee or Eden Prairie and then go have a dance somewhere? That's not
They could
school.
go to your house, Lauren, and dance in the basement. Or they could, or maybe somebody would have a barn, or maybe somebody would have, yes, it would be up to small peer groups to, with their friends, much like they do now, Lauren. Kids come to the actual dinner and prom and leave by 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then go off on their own with their group of friends. So that would be that's the second part of it. So yes, there'd be, again, this is just in the planning stages, but I wanted people to know that we are planning something.
Any other questions for Mr. Visner? Anything on his report that anybody wanted to ask about? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, on to middle school principal, Ben.
Sideways.
Sorry,
That's kind of funny,
my
Ben.
phone just said that it was gonna die, so if it falls off. I would say it's as reported. I would also just give a shout out to all of our staff for the work that they've done to get kids back in the building.
Okay, any questions?
But I would just,
Go ahead. Any questions for Mr. Baker? Thank you.
thank you guys.
We'll see you early tomorrow morning at breakfast. Okay, Melissa, elementary principal's report. You're muted, Melissa.
Thank you. Similar to Mr. Visner and Mr. Bakeward, my report's just as noted. Just a real quick highlight, we had a great response to our kindergarten information night for families. Right now, we're sitting just over 100 registrations for kindergarten for the upcoming school year, and we're not necessarily even in our busy time of enrollment. You know that typically over the summer months, so that's really promising for us to be at this number, and so I'm really happy with that. And then finally, I just wanted to put a shout out to our teachers and our students and families. We raised over $8,000 for LLS pennies for patients this year, and that I believe is the most we've ever raised as an elementary school for that particular fundraiser. And considering all of the challenges that all of our school community has had with COVID and whatnot, it's amazing to know that our families are still willing to be so generous for such a great cause. So I just wanted to mention those two things.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Barnett? Thank you. Erin, did you have anything in your report?
Not really the same as above, as reported, as Mr. Bakeberg said. I guess the biggest things are planning for testing, because this year MCA testing will go ahead. The guidance from MDE and the federal government was that waivers would not be granted this year. Therefore, just planning on how we're going to do MCA testing. JVA students have to test on site. There's not that remote testing option. So just kind of working with the different school assessment coordinators to get that plan up and running. And then planning for next year. Already planning some summer activities, specifically MTSS boot camp, working with Sarah Miller and Malik Peer on planning some of that, excuse me, some of those learning opportunities and just different professional development throughout the year. So gearing up for next year already. Great, good.
So I thought I had heard that there was a possibility that the MCAs can be taken.
There was waiting. There's a lot of waiting.
Yeah.
Until the election, and then when new administration came into play. And then there was some guidance that came out in February that led to the potential where it said maybe some waivers will be granted, but you got to try really, really hard to get testing in place. And